So these are the three questions that I'm getting from pretty much everyone. The first one, does it make sense to sell your home during a pandemic? So let's talk about where we've been and where we're going. So pre-pandemic, homes were selling at a record pace. Our inventory was just about dissipated right before this started to happen. Interest rates had dropped down to, let's say, 3.25%, probably about a point and a half below this same time last year. So the market was really, really good. So the pandemic hits, then what happens? So we think what we're seeing already is supply has started to dissipate, meaning there are people that are taking their homes off the market right now, which is understandable. They're not sure. They don't want people traipsing through their house, whatever. They're going to wait, okay? And we still have very low interest rates, okay? So what we're going to see is affordability is going to improve. So with lower interest rates, that means people are going to be able to buy. However, the flip side of that is we're going to lose some buyers because of changes in unemployment, right? Unemployment's going to increase. It's already starting. Unless you're working at Amazon or the Acme or Wegmans, you're probably very secure. Otherwise, who knows, okay? But what we've seen in the past, if you study what happens in prior recessions, what we've seen is that home prices did decline. However, we are in very uncharted territory right now. So this is a pandemic. This is something new. No one really knows. But what we think will happen is when the dust clears and people come back out again, remember, right now, all these people would have been in the market buying homes. This is our busiest time of the year, so it's being postponed. I think the government's working on reduction of interest rate. So you're going to have a low interest rate environment. So is it a good time to sell now during a pandemic? We think an offer today could be much better than an offer you might get tomorrow, okay? So again, certain people, probably it doesn't make sense. You have a health condition or something, and we'll talk about that in the presentation today. Probably maybe not a good time, okay? So the next question, question number 2, what people are asking me is, what happens to real estate now? So number 1, I'm going to start with, and I put my little laser pointer right there. What happens to real estate companies now? Let's start with that. So we've seen a lot of interruption in the real estate space. A lot of these companies have come in that are heavily capitalized. They're publicly traded. They've come up with all tricks and things that altered the old-fashioned process of real estate, which was a local person handling the sale of a property. And some of these companies have algorithms that determine pricing. And some of these companies have started to buy homes through a program called iBuyer. iBuyer is institutional money buying lots of homes. Well, guess what? There's a probability that some of these companies could disappear in this new landscape because their stock prices have depressed. They're not profitable to begin with. So these companies have started, never made a profit. They were projecting profits, you know, in the future. So that, do we think that all these companies are going to be around? Probably not. We're going to probably see some of them disappear. The other point to keep in mind is that the local agent is the person that's going to win. And the reason we say that is because this is a business of knowledge and relationships, right? So those two ingredients are important so that the local person who's got his, you know, ear to the ground and knows what's happening is going to win. They have the experience to get through this uncertainty of what's out in the marketplace. The next thing that people are asking me is, what happens with retail? So retail, although we're today talking about home selling, I'm just touching on it. We think that Amazon was the first interruption in the space, and we think that it's now going to be accelerated because people are now getting accustomed and used to using Amazon and all these online portals. We think the retail market is going to further compress. You know, you're going to see a lot of these stores, you know, disappear at probably a much higher rate. I was reading the Wall Street Journal today, and all these companies are pulling on their lines, and trying to, J.C. Penney and all these various other companies that are trying to figure out how to survive. And then finally, the office market, which, look at that. You're now a company, you're working at home, everything seems to be working. You have networks, you have VPNs, you have, conference calling, you have VoIP phones, all this technology. Do you really need the office space? So I think some offices will probably make a decision at some point to, it's a huge sector of their budget to probably cut office space. What do they need it for? That, it worked well. Yeah, you don't get the interactions. There's a lot of negatives, but I think it's an economic decision, and you'll see the office market change. And finally, the third question is, how can I sell my home during a pandemic? How do you do that? And my answer is, life events continue regardless of what's happening in the environment. So if, you have recessions, you have, whatever happens in the world, people still need to buy and sell homes, okay? Life events, that's downsizing, divorce, birth, other factors like that, things go on. And we're working on transactions like today, exactly with those fact patterns of people that they bought a retirement home, they need to sell their house, and they need to go. They need the proceeds to buy their retirement home. So thank you, everyone. And again, don't forget, if you could, to do the feedback, because I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can make these better, because we're going to be launching a whole bunch while we're trapped inside practicing social distancing. So this is something to keep us out of trouble, and we'll probably have a whole bunch more for you.
Ooh.